So we are going to kick off this marathon of down and dirty awesomeness with a really cool, slick watch ad. These really types of high-end watch ads you see in all the really high-end fashion magazines and such. And they're really just cool, very slick-looking ads. And they're really not that hard to create once you have all the elements. So we're going to begin with a document I've already created here. And just so you can see that I am working relatively low res. It's 9 by 12 and 125. If you were, in fact, doing this for a real print job, you would certainly want to be doing it at a higher resolution, depending on the type of printing you're going to be doing. But that is the size I'm going to be working at in this demonstration. Now, the file is created, but what I want is actually to be working on a black background, not a white background. So quick and easy to convert the white to black. Simply press Command or Control I, and it will invert the white to black. There you go. So next thing we're going to do is add a background element to this. I'm going to go ahead and add a new blank layer. And we're going to add a blue gradient. I'm going to go over here and grab my gradient tool. And we're going to use the foreground to transparent, which is the second icon right here inside the gradient picker. And we want to use the radial gradient. Up here you've got several different gradient types. We're going to use the second one, which is the radial. I'm going to jump over here to my swatches panel and let's have a look. We're gonna let's get this kind of light blue color here. Got our gradient set, everything. I'm just gonna draw out from an area in the middle, or roughly the top area up here. There we go. And that's starting to give me a little bit of a background element there. Now what I want to do is go ahead and bring up my rulers in here. I'm gonna go ahead and press Command or Control R, and it's gonna bring up my rulers. Let me go ahead and change my unit of measure here. And what I want to do is put a rectangular box at the bottom of this layout. I'm going to create a new blank layer. And let's grab the rectangular marquee tool. I'm just going to draw a box over the bottom 2.5 inches of this layout. Right about there. I'm just going to go ahead and press Shift Delete, and we will fill that with black, normal, okay. And there we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and start bringing over elements that we are going to composite in here. So let's actually open up the image of the watch we're going to use. Here it is right here. I've already got it extracted from its background, and you can see it's relatively high res. It's only at 16.7%. If I go to the image size, you can see it is a pretty big file. Now, in order to be able to scale this up and down and do different things with it in my final layout, it's going to be a smart idea to turn this into a smart object. So inside my Layers panel, I'm just going to go into the flyout menu and choose Convert to Smart Object. So now I can scale it up and down without worry of it losing any of the quality. So we'll go ahead and take that and drag and drop it over. And if you add the Shift key as you drag and drop it, will drop it in the center. There we go. So go ahead and minimize this. So I'm going to use this watch in two different ways. I'm actually going to use it as a background element, because you always see those watch ads. They've got a kind of a screened back version of the actual product in the background, and then the actual product itself in the foreground. So we're going to use two versions of this watch. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this one really big in the background, and then just go into the Layers panel and make a duplicate of that layer. Or you can press Command or Control J, does the same thing. Also, I'm going to go ahead and put this in free transform mode by pressing Command T, and you can see the transform handles do extend beyond my visible area. And so simply press Command or Control 0, and that will expand it out, revealing the transform handles. So let's go ahead and take this and drag it down and scale the watch roughly about the size we're going to have it in the ad here. There we go. So with the background element here, I think I can go ahead and blend that to the background. Let's actually put that underneath the layer containing that black bar on the bottom. And let's go ahead and change the blend mode of this to, let's say, soft light. Not too bad. And to go and feel free to try other blend modes just to see how it may blend with that background. But I think soft light's going to be the best candidate here. That looks pretty good. All right. So now I'm going to position the watch right down here, the actual product, and this is going to kind of act as a surface for our product to sit on. Let's give that a little bit of a rotation there. There we go. All right, so we're looking pretty good. So now let's concentrate on the area of the watch right now. Right down here toward the bottom. Let's go. So I want to have the watch looking like it's sitting on a surface. So we're going to have to do a few things to make it look like that, especially on a black surface like this. Well, the first and obvious thing is it's going to need a reflection. So let's go ahead and make another duplicate of that layer. Go to Edit, Transform, Flip Vertical, and we'll just drag it down till it snaps to the bottom there. And there we have a reflection. We can go ahead and add a layer mask to that and give it a fade. If we go over here and grab the gradient tool, once again using the foreground to transparent gradient, this time with black set as the foreground color, and we'll come here from the bottom and just drag up to actually use a linear gradient this time, and gives that a little bit of a fade. Not too bad. It's got a reflection. It does have the appearance of, sitting on a surface, but we're not quite there yet. There we are. I'm going to add a couple more elements to this. So I'm going to create a new blank layer in between the reflection layer and the product layer. Let's actually put that reflection under the product layer. So you can see what we have here. Here is the layer containing the watch. This one is the layer with the reflection. We're going to put that blank layer in between those layers. And then go over here into the toolbar and grab the elliptical marquee tool and just draw an elliptical shape right at the base of that watch. I'm going to go ahead and sample. Let's grab the eyedropper tool and just sample the blue color in the background here, and then just fill that selection in by pressing Option Delete. Now do make sure you're on that new blank layer in between there. There we are. We'll go ahead and give this a little bit of a blur, so we'll just go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Give it about a 12 pixel blur, it might look pretty good. Can scale it down a little bit more if we need to. So not too bad. Can make some adjustments here. Let's actually zoom in. I'm going to drop the opacity of that just a little bit so that reflection can show through a little bit more. So now, what we've got is the watch on a surface with a little hint of lights of that blue area. In fact, I'm going to put more blur on that. There we go. But at the same time, this would also be casting a very tiny shadow on this blue surface. So let's put another layer above that blue surface and draw another even smaller elliptical selection right inside there and give that a black fill. And then we'll throw another blur on that one. A little bit of a Gaussian blur there. Not quite as much as the previous one. Let's do about an 8 pixel blur this time. There we go. And once again, drop the opacity down a little bit. So now we zoom out, we can see now we're getting it more convincingly sitting on a surface with a colored surface with a little bit of a shadow. We'll drop that opacity down even further. And it's got the reflection, and I think that reflection could stand to be turned down on the opacity as well. Let's actually drop that to around 75. There we go. Subtle reflection, looks good, and we can go ahead and continue to add other elements. Now the next thing we're going to add is actually a photo of a model that I've got. This is actually one that Scott Kelby shot. It's going to be perfect for what we're doing here. It's kind of a classy, sophisticated look. So I'm going to take this image and go ahead and drag and drop it into my layout as well. Again, holding the Shift key down as I drag over. And there it is. You know what? Let's undo that. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to do to this image what we did to the last one, which was convert to a smart object. So once that's done, let's go ahead and drag that over. And we'll go ahead and press Command-T to go ahead and free transform once more. And remember the trick to expand the document out, Command or Control-0. And we'll go ahead and just scale this in. And now if you scale, just hold down your Shift key to keep the proportions, but also add the Option or Alt key, and it will scale it proportionally to the center. And we want to get it right about here. There we go. Position it right about there because that's where it's going to ultimately be in the layout here. Now we need to reposition it in the layers. Let's actually position it under that black bar that we have. And that looks pretty good. Now what I want to do is blend this image of the watch in the background with this image of the guy right in here. I want to kind of have that watch kind of appearing over here. So I'm going to put a layer mask on that layer of the guy, and we're just going to use a simple gradient. Let's go grab the gradient tool. Foreground to transparent. I'm going to start in from the right side here and just drag over. And you can start to see that watch starting to creep in. Notice I went a little too far. Let's go right to the edge of his face. There it is. So we can see the mechanical workings of the watch, the close-up. Those watches typically have the product shot, really close. And we can go down here and move it around if we want to catch a better glimpse of a certain part of the watch there. There we go. There, that's looking nice and classy. Very nice. So, going back over to this guy over here, what we see is that it's a little too, well, it's a little too saturated for one. So let's go ahead and put a hue saturation adjustment layer on him and just drop his saturation down a little bit. Let's put it at about negative 25. And let's go ahead and bring back up those layers. Minimize that. There we go. And you can test different blend modes on this guy. You want some work and some may not. So you could try hard light, multiply. We'll just kind of blend it. I mean, so you never, in a lot of cases, blend modes won't work, but you never know what you're going to get if you just try and go through them. And if at all times a blend mode doesn't work, just drop the opacity a little bit. It'll allow some areas to bleed through. Maybe even, add some more layer masking. Let's go maybe have a little bit of a gradient coming in from the bottom here. Not nearly as much. There we go. Make the opacity about 90. It looks pretty good. Just allowing elements to show through. Just to, another more experimenting with the various pieces, like layer masks and stuff like that. So one more element to add is a logo down here for the product. Now, we're just going to make believe that this is a cool Breitling watch ad. So I've got the logo here. I'm just going to go ahead and take that and drag and drop it over. And we'll just drop it down and let's scale it into position. Now, what was my fatal flaw here? Let's throw that away. If we got a good size logo and it's rasterized, you're going to be bringing it into Photoshop. Good habit. Convert to Smart Object. Now let's put it into position. We'll scale it in here. There we go. Now it's looking classy. But now, if I zoom in and look at the logo, it looks good, but it doesn't look great. But here's where a very simple layer style can make all the difference in the world. So we've got the logo. Let's go into here, into the layer style menu, and add a simple bevel and emboss. And the default one looks okay, but let's change it up a little bit. Let's zoom out there. There we go. Let's go in here and turn off Use Global Light and move the light source closer to the center here. And then let's change the gloss contour. If you just click on this, it opens up a number of presets here. Let's click on this one here and look at that. Automatically gives us a kind of cool metallic, more of a metallic look to it. Just by changing that contour setting and this lighting, it's giving us a much classier look to it. And that's all I'm going to do. That really actually looks fine for me. So we'll click OK and zoom back out. And look at that. We've got a really nice, classy ad. Now we're missing one last element here. And that is our text. This is some simple copy that we're going to add right here in this open area right there. To completely finish it off, and I think that the background screen watch, yes, it's still at 100%. I think we could stand to drop that down to about 75, maybe even further. Let's go to 65. And there we have it. A really classy watch ad built from just a few elements. Remember, we had the watch by itself as a very high-res image that we used both for a background element and for the foreground element. Then just some simple layer masking and adjustment layers. We were able to bring in those elements and composite them into a very sophisticated looking Breitling watch ad. Very cool stuff.